Welcome to another episode of the Learning Equation podcast. I'm your host, Danelle Almaraz, and I'm so excited to have Elizabeth Weis here today to share. She's a director of Instructional Technology. And Elizabeth, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your education journey, and where are you now and what are you doing?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me today. It's really so exciting to be here. So I began my career actually as a preschool teacher, and I really loved that time and being with some of our youngest learners. I very quickly moved into literacy education because I recognized a need for reading and writing support, and I became a first grade and then eventually for K through 8th, I was the literacy specialist for a school building. After I had my son, I moved into a public school district from a private school, and I was a literacy specialist for grades 3 through 5. But during that time, I was really always a lifelong learner and practiced what I preached. And I kept going to school and kept learning more. And part of my educational journey was learning about educational technology. And I really became so enveloped by everything I was learning. And this was actually pre-pandemic. So this was new and upcoming and exciting things. And I began integrating technology into my daily teaching, and simultaneously got my administrative degree. And then post-COVID, my resources for educational technology were really needed both during and post-COVID. So I was so thankful to be able to have that background knowledge to be there to support my fellow educators. So I quickly fell into the role of technology coach for my building, just naturally from that time during the pandemic. And I really appreciated that one-on-one time with my colleagues and to build our foundation of educational technology together. From there, I became the humanities coach, putting together my two loves of literacy as well as educational technology and sharing them district-wide. And shortly thereafter, I ended up here in the Connetquot School District as the Director of Instructional Technology, where I continue to share my love of curriculum and educational technology and how to blend them together district-wide.
Oh my goodness. And so needed at the moment. You know, we really need a moment to pause and really ask ourselves, like, how do we make sure this technology is enhancing what we're doing, right? How do you prepare students for a future we can't predict at the moment? So you've had lots of experience, you see the needs, they're all different. We have the opportunity now to differentiate like we never had before, right? Feedback for students, there's lots of opportunity. But how do you help people really have a vision of what could it look like in 5 years? How do we prepare them for something we've never seen? We don't know what it's going to look like.
I really feel the most important piece, regardless of what the future may look like, is a strong digital citizenship curriculum. So making sure that our students understand what their digital footprint is and the mark that they're leaving on this world, to understand safe online and digital behaviors and how to use these tools appropriately. Because you are correct, the tools are going to be forever changing. And regardless of what they look like or how they're going to use them in the future, we need to make sure that they're prepared and that they're making good choices for themselves moving forward. I can't predict what the future is going to hold, although I'd love to sit here and make a bunch of predictions. But what I can do is prepare our students to make good choices. So my district in particular, we've made sure that we have a strong digital citizenship curriculum and that we support our students in making these strong choices.
Great. One of the things that I get to hear as I travel and help lots of schools and districts is we talk about sometimes digital literacy. The new thing I've heard that I was like, oh, I like that is digital fluency. Can you use, can you look and see what is the problem and what would be the best tool? right? It's not that I'm so great at just these few tools. I could say this is what we need, and you have to have fluency. Some are using Google, some are using Microsoft, some, right? So you see the need for that if you're only a Google district and they have Microsoft at their first job, they're going to be at a moment of disadvantage. They probably won't take long. But how do you all decide what tech maybe you should adopt? Like, where does the need come from to say, oh, we need a tool that does this, or here's a problem we have that maybe technology can solve?
So there are a lot of processes that we have to go through before we onboard any technology. The first and most important is I'm in New York State, so we follow EdLaw 2D. And my other hat that I wear here is I'm the data protection officer. So thank you. So any of our platforms that we have must be vetted first for EdLaw 2D compliance. My most important role is safety and security of my students, and I need to make sure that their data is always protected. So any platform that I'm going to onboard or any tool that I'm going to onboard needs to partner with me in ensuring that all of our data is secure and protected to the best way that they possibly can. That's number one. After that, I like to have a full-fledged pilot to ensure that any platform is going to meet the needs of our students. So if we're looking at a math, a reading, or an AI platform, we need to make sure that this is really working in the way in which we intend. I like to include all stakeholders in that, administrators, teachers, TAs, to make sure that everyone has a voice in the room, but also it creates and generates such wonderful ideas when we have all stakeholders together. After that, the other piece is partnering with the platform. I like to ensure, because we are a smaller technology staff for such a large district, I like to make sure that my ed tech team feels very supported and that we have partners with the platform so that they can offer professional development, supportive resources. I know in particular, we onboarded Magic School this year. They have things like a wall of love or Facebook groups where teachers can, outside of our district, get together with other educators and build a worldwide community and share resources and ideas. Those are just some of the things that we utilize. Of course, there's always feedback from our community about their communication needs. There's data regarding our curriculum as far as testing needs and accommodation needs. But overall, when selecting those platforms to meet those needs, I would say those are the three most important things when selecting the platform that our district is going to utilize.
I'd love to double tap on the one of have a relationship with this group, because you don't want it to be, and I love that you're almost like I can see you as the gatekeeper, like holding back. The other thing is the system can't take so much. You can't support competing initiatives, and the school districts need one more initiative, like they need a hole in the head. So I love that you really hold back that and ask the right questions. Is it safe for our kids? How are we going to use this? How are you going to support? Because one and done PD, we know from research, has no impact. And are you going to be there when we need you? Are you going to be there when the system goes down or we're having trouble or we have questions we can't answer? So that I love everything about what you described. And then the shared leadership piece, bringing on board all the stakeholders to say, this is what we're going to use. Here's why. Here's what we think it's going to do. And we want to hear your feedback on, is it providing that level of service to our people?
Yes, I am so thankful to have a very involved team here in Connetquot. So even just this past year, I was talking about how we onboarded Magic School, and AI has been a large tackle for us here. And I had 60 teachers and administrators willing to work together as a committee to tackle how we as a district envisioned AI rolling out. And so that participation is so key in making sure that we as a district have a shared vision for success together.
Yeah, that clarity of focus. Let's all be clear of what we're trying to accomplish. One of the areas I find I taught math in middle school for 20 years, and math is always my love and heart and soul. And I know literacy is yours. So what tools have you seen out there that are really providing some support in math? Because as a math teacher, what I found is kids would go home and practice wrong. We do the lesson, they could watch a video. I really was great about like differentiating so they could watch the lesson over and over. But then I found they went home and there was some incorrect practicing, or now everyone's worried about, AI is doing it for them. Have you seen anything that you really are excited about that you see in the area of math?
So this is a very typical problem that I hear repeatedly, not just from you, but from all the math teachers as well, because AI works on a LLM and it doesn't necessarily produce correct answers. And even when I was working on training our teachers in our two new AI tools, it wasn't able to produce the graphs that they wanted to produce or the worksheets they wanted to produce. And then, funny enough, even last night when I was at home with my own child who was doing his homework, he was taking a picture of the problem and circling it on ChatGPT, and it was showing him step by step how to do the problem. But it really got me thinking two things, and then I'll return to your question. We tend to discourage students from doing that, from using ChatGPT and taking that picture. And he said to me, he said, Mom, it shows me step by step how to do this problem, and then I can do the other ones. So it really leaves that essential question of, is that really cheating then? Or is that really not using tools the way they're supposed to? Because that really helped him be able to answer all the questions. And I think that's an essential question that teachers have been asking themselves lately. It almost reminds me of the days when we first introduced Google to teachers, and all the teachers said, well, they're just going to Google all the answers. It's cheating. They're just going to Google it. And we've gotten over that hurdle now, but it reminds me of that time when we had to learn how to appropriately use a new tool like Google. As far as math and utilizing a tool for math, many of the educational platforms, especially AI platforms, now recognize the need to make sure that they're able to include math. I have a great relationship with Magic School, and I know I've brought that up before. And in their roadmap, their next stop is mathematics. And they're coming out with some new mathematics tools very soon, which my entire math department is very pleased about, and so am I, because I feel like if we have the buy-in and the support for the math teachers, this tool will really take off, especially for students like my son, who are sitting at home and need that step-by-step support, that one-on-one tutoring when they're home doing their math work, and maybe need a reminder of that process. So I'm really looking forward to it, to see what they have for our students in that area.
Oh, well, offline, I have a few secrets to share with you. So I'll share a few little tidbits. And I'm totally with you. What I see is it helps kids get unstuck.
Yes.
Because I know as a math teacher, 20 years experience, I would come around to kind of look at their homework while they were correcting it and talking about the problems. And what I found was when they got to when they couldn't do, they just stopped.
Yes.
Full stop. It wasn't even going on to the next problem. Their mind just could not let them skip that problem. So they would spend too much time on it. And then they would just, or practice incorrectly, right? Then they're guessing, they're trying different things. So to have something that can give at time support at the moment when you need it, right? I would just tell them, just skip it. And they just couldn't. So now imagine, like your son did, to me, that is digital fluency. Finding a tool that you need at this moment so that you can move on or see if you're doing it correctly. To me, that's not cheating. That's a great use of tools, right? As long as now he understands how to do it, but that's, I think our responsibility is just like anything else. I have 5 children and teaching them how to drive, right? You've got to teach them those safety skills and to watch out. And that's our responsibility to make sure they understand how to use them. But I love that. I love that he is, curious enough to be out there to say, how can this tool help me? Right?
And that comes back to those digital citizenship lessons. So, him knowing that it's okay to learn the steps and then put it away and move on with it using his own math minds, or our students knowing when it's appropriate to use those tools and when it's okay to now put it away and use our own internal resources. And that's it coming full circle.
You talked about bringing teachers again, right? That shared leadership. Your district really is about getting people on board, bring the willing, those that want to try, those that are willing to try something. What's one of your favorite stories of someone that really embraced coming together and that they are just flying and soaring now, that you just love to see? Because I know I love to see it when they come together and now they own it and they go out on their own and they are just excited again.
I have so many stories that it's almost hard to pick one. There are several instances, but I'll stick with what we're talking about since it was AI. I have a teacher that participated in the AI group, had not used AI previously, shared that she herself was very uncomfortable, but came in because she wanted to learn more and was curious. And I was so glad that she was there because she offered the voice of many of our teachers in the district who had never used AI before. And it was such an important piece. So I thanked her for being there. And she happened to be a physical education teacher. And she did not think she would get anything out of this experience, but was curious. And she left with so much, being able to use some of the tools that we had introduced her to. She was able to create lesson plans, get coaching tips, and really create a new repertoire for herself. And it was really a beautiful experience to watch her have a whole new amount of things opened up to her, whereas before, when she just came in, she was just curious, and now she had colleagues she was leaning on and colleagues she was sharing things with. It was such a beautiful experience for her, and that's just one of many. I've seen multiple platforms, multiple people sharing new resources and collaborating together. And to me, that's the most important piece, is that collaboration piece, not just one individual knowing something and soaring, but multiple individuals. This year, our district went around and we recognized our technology heroes. So one individual from each building who has done what you just said, onboarded something new or shared a new technology and soared, but beyond that, shared it with colleagues and was a go-to person, because it's so important to have that collaborative experience and share struggles and share solutions together. So all of them are flooding my mind right now, but that's just one in particular that really stood out to me, because she allowed herself to be so vulnerable in that moment and just full out admitted she knew nothing about it and left with so very much.
And how often they sit in PDs that they're like, how's this relevant to me? How am I going to use this? But for her to walk away and now see collaboration and building collective expertise, I call it, are such important pillars to really move this work forward. By doing that, how did that come about? Because you talked about they then shared out. What happens is once you're willing to share out, you have now said to your friends, your colleagues, I'm not an expert, but I'm trying this. If you want to come learn more, you kind of open your door. So you don't need so much outside experience. You're having that amongst yourself. How did that organically come about? And then how do you get them to want to present, right? Because it's a different thing to be willing to dabble behind closed doors, but to say, now will you present and share with your colleagues your learnings?
I think it's really about empowering your educators to make decisions to guide the district in the direction into which they see for their students. How it came about for us is, before I mentioned that we had our AI committee formed with our 60 teachers and administrators to give a voice to the direction that they wanted AI to take within the district. We met monthly as a committee, and it was twofold. We learned about the AI platforms that were available in our district to empower them to learn more about the platforms that were available. And in addition, we also created a living guidance document, and it's in the form of a website, but it allowed them to create guiding principles, a vision statement, resources that are available, as well as a common language between all of us as to when AI can be used, what to do if you're citing a work, how to handle plagiarism, and really work together as a learning community to guide the district in the direction that we saw fit. From that experience of empowering our educators to make the decision that was best from the district, they felt not only comfortable, but confident in the fact that they were the ones to deliver the message. So much so that at the end, at our last meeting, when I asked, how would we like to deliver this message? They stood up and said, we want to be the ones to deliver the message, which was fantastic because they're the ones that should. They're the educators who are with our students every day, who are living this, and I want them to be the representatives and sharing everything that's happening in the classrooms and with all these platforms. So to create those experiences in which teachers can share, empower them, and then grant them those opportunities has been helpful in facilitating that.
Oh, wonderful. That just be still my heart. What kind of data do you use to say, yes, this is working? Because it's one thing for a teacher to say, I love it, I think this is a great platform, but how do we know it's having an impact for kids? How do you collect information, qualitative or quantitative, to say, yes, this is impactful beyond what the teacher is sharing, that they love it for ease of use or a problem solved for them?
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. If I go up to them and say, do you like it? They're going to say yes, because I'm the director of instructional technology. So they're not going to tell me any different. So we have on the back end, I see the administrative side. So I run reports constantly to see usage and data. And I can see if there was a simple click on any platform, whether it be what we're talking about AI platforms or any other platforms, and see if it's actually being utilized or if it's just an accidental click. So for the one we're talking about, we were just talking about Magic School. From the time we piloted it to now, I can see a huge amount of growth in usage with all of our teachers and students. And I can gauge from there if individuals are using it and how much. Similar with other platforms, I was looking at another one recently where we were determining if the district was going to move forward with it. I can see if teachers are utilizing it for how many lessons, how many teachers, how many times they've gone to it to use it as a resource. So we kind of gauge it with that, but we also use educator feedback. So if I'm considering pulling back a platform because maybe I have two platforms that do essentially the same thing, I would go to the educators and say, we have these two platforms, and they may come back and tell me that a certain platform has something they just can't live without, and they really need it. And we'll understand that and we'll move forward from there. But we do consider not only the data, but also the teacher voice. It's very important.
How do you make sure that they're calibrating as far as rigor? Because I know a lot of times you see them use the tools, but if they're asking everything at like a DOK1 or there isn't really, right? So how do you make sure that it's actually being used to enhance teaching and learning and not just a substitute for a little task?
So I'm very fortunate. I have educational technology coaches here who continuously go in and model and integrate technology into lessons. Additionally, they have made libraries to support the curriculum so that teachers can go in and utilize those libraries and make sure that we're asking those higher level questions as well. Whenever we are in need of some additional modeling, professional development, we know we can tap on those educational coaches to come on in and integrate those technologies and create resources for our teachers, because our teachers don't have a lot of time to recreate the wheel, if you will, but our tech coaches are so skilled in being able to do that, and they have a great relationship with our teachers. They're willing to try those new things, and they're willing to tackle those issues as well. So I really give a lot of credit to them and their work in that.
How do you make sure, because I'm all about alignment, clarity of focus, having alignment, coherence. How are you sure? Because you sound like your district's doing a great job at the early adopters, really supporting them. What does PD then look like to be able to support so it doesn't feel like a one-off? Like if you're over here doing this great technology and you're having a PD on something else, teachers often feel like that's not what I need at the moment. And how do you balance that? Because you have some teachers that haven't dabbled yet. They're not ready for AI and huge technology shifts. So how do you design PD to meet everyone's needs when you have such a wide extreme of those that are willing to use technology, those that are not, they're hesitant still? What does that look like for you all?
So we offer a variety of options for our staff. We have to make sure that there's something for everyone. We have asynchronous professional developments that we offer at a variety of levels. So whether you're just starting off and learning a tool or you feel you want to perfect your craft, we have a little something at every level for everyone. So we do offer that as well. We also try to keep our fingers on the pulse of the district. So like I said before, we look at the data and we see what is being used and what is not. Well, before we get to that point, if we see a drop in usage for any reason, we take that as a cue that we need to offer continued professional development. So for example, the ed tech coach and I, we were just talking about Seesaw and how we've seen a little bit of a drop of usage of that, and it might be time for us to do more follow-up professional development there. It's a constant cyclical process in which we give some PD and then we pull back a little bit and allow users to use it. But for each of our platforms, we're constantly in a cycle of supporting. In addition to our professional developments that are asynchronous, we also stop by department meetings. We also do in-classroom visits. And we're always, again, keeping our fingers on the pulse of the technology of the district.
So these great practices, what I do know is they also cause a shift in assessment practices. Right? Because if you're doing the things that you're describing and kids are producing work or creating portfolios or sharing, how has that shifted your grading practices as a district?
So it's interesting that you say that because that was one of the topics of our curriculum committee this year. We actually aligned ourselves with New York State. We used to have a different passing average. We used to be 70 for passing. We've now aligned ourselves with New York State goals, and we're now a 65 passing average. And there was a lot of discussion about the movement of New York State and what that's going to look like for graduation. So there's seals of biliteracy and different things that are occurring here. So we are aligning ourselves more with what that practice would look like and the different routes or different pathways towards graduation. We are not the only state that will undergo these changes, but I think it really does go hand in hand with how technology has shaped the course of education, and we're seeing that now reflected ultimately in a child's diploma, and that will come to fruition in the next couple of years.
What are you most excited about that you've accomplished this year? So you've talked a lot about some structure, systems, processes, because those are the important things. It can't be a one-off. What are you most proud of that you've all accomplished this past year?
Oh my goodness. I'm very proud of my team overall. We've undergone a lot of changes this year in a very fast amount of time. And no matter what change we've had, together as a team, we've tackled it and we've made sure that our school district as a whole feels supported, whether they're a community member, a student, a faculty member, we have been there. We've introduced centralized printing this year, which was a huge undertaking for the department. We've introduced Parent Square this year to increase communication district-wide, and that also was a large undertaking. And we're in the process and almost complete of onboarding a new district website. So overall, a lot of projects, but I could not be more proud of the team and how they've worked together to achieve all of these goals.
Yeah, districts are teams. There isn't one person is not going to create this heavy lift. It's going to require a whole team. So it sounds like you have amazing people, structures, processes that's really kind of moving the district forward. At the district level, you talked about looking at data. What do they look at the school site level? So what kind of data as a teacher would I be reaching out to you to say, can you help me pull these reports or look at this data? What do they use on a regular basis at the school sites to kind of drive their instruction?
So for them, they utilize iReady very much so. And a lot of them have onboarded iReady within this very close, I don't want to say within the close future, that's not what I'm trying to say, within this recent time. So it's new to them. So they've undergone a lot of training, but particularly in math and reading. So they have been learning how to read the reports and how to lean on that data in order to differentiate their instruction and also to ensure that their students are on the right track as far as making progress for their grade level. So I would say at the elementary level, if I had to pick one, I would say iReady is the data point that they would lean most on, in addition to their genuine classroom assessments and their curriculum assessments. But that would be for all elementary schools, iReady would be the number one data point.
And any in particular for the high schools and middle schools?
The high schools and middle schools, as far as the high school, they have Regents exams that they have their scores on. They also have midterms, and it varies depending upon what the course is. We always take the data. I sit with the directors group, obviously, and the directors give a great presentation annually about their scores comparatively from year to year on AP exams, Regents exams, to show the growth of the district over time. And it's quite a very interesting presentation as well. So I know that there's always look into the growth overall from those exams.
Oh my goodness. We've tapped all of the areas that are important as far as clarity of focus. You all do an amazing job at that shared leadership and building collective expertise of all from the inside out, and then the continuous improvement to make sure, how do we get better? You described a little bit about how your team comes back and tells you, how do you on a systems level get feedback? Because you said, I look at reports or I do this. So a lot of times in districts, information goes down, but it doesn't often come up as fluently, or as often it doesn't come up. So how do you as a district collect that information? Because you've talked about with parents or teachers, how does that information come up to the district level so that everyone's aware of what's working, what's not working, what are the big pain points at the moment?
Yes, so we have a lot of systems in place to make sure that everything is communicated appropriately. In particular, our superintendent of curriculum and instruction does a fantastic job of holding meetings with us and reviewing data with us. She has elementary principals meetings and secondary principals meetings, as well as directors meetings. And then we come together as an administrative council to review as needed as well. She loops technology in when needed. However, they do have everything within their own ecosystem. So they do, for example, iReady. They can review the reports. They've seen training. They know how to view their own data, and then that can be brought up to, I almost said her name, to be brought up to the assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, as well as, the entire cabinet. So there are systems in place to be able to, check and balance that, as well as our Board of Education is extremely involved too. So if there are any concerns from the community, they're shared, and that's, discussed at the principals meetings as well.
Elizabeth, this has been such a pleasure. Is there anything I didn't think to ask that you're looking forward to for next year, or something that you want to share that I didn't think to discuss?
Let me think about it.
Okay.
For next year, I'm looking just forward to continuing the work that we've already put into motion. I'm looking forward to continuing supporting everyone on the platforms that we have available and expanding on their knowledge base. Not every year is there a big change, and we've experienced a lot of big change lately. So we're looking just to continue our safety practices and continue introducing these platforms and growing our knowledge base. And overall, I'm really pleased with the work of the AI committee and my team, and I look forward to another successful year.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing, just bringing hope to people of there are ways that giant school systems can take on these innovative challenges. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.